This is an excellent question, and it's one that I get a lot from clients as well. How do we keep the dog from being completely dependent on always having to get a treat every time you ask them to do something? So, we start to space out the asking of the behavior, the completion of the behavior, and the actual reward during our training process. So when you're first teaching an animal any sort of behavior, whether it's a skill or a trick or whatever, sit down, stay, leave it, all of those things. In the beginning, you are going to be very generous. You want to be using a lot of treats to make it very clear what it is that you want, and it makes it worth doing for your dog. So keep in mind, a lot of the things that dogs do in our day-to-day lives that annoy us as humans are very normal dog behaviors. So getting up, foraging for food, AKA hopping up on the counter to try to steal your sandwich, getting into the trash can, grabbing and chewing up items, digging in the yard. All of these things are normal dog behaviors. So when we're asking an animal to live in our home and basically not do much, we don't not do a ton of those natural behaviors because they bother us, I don't really think personally that it's fair to expect them to do all these other things that we want them to do, sit, stay, down, all these other behaviors without any sort of paycheck. I think that, like any creature, there's got to be something in it for you in order to go against what feels natural for you, and or just working in general. So, you might be willing to work for free for a little while or volunteer if it's like in your spare time, but for the most part, if you are anticipating a paycheck for a job, you'd probably rather be doing something else, right? But you're clocking into work and your paycheck doesn't show up and it keeps not showing up. At some point, you're probably gonna stop coming in, right? You're gonna stop doing such a great job. So I think of rewards as paychecks for our dog. Now, we start out with food rewards, and kind of the easiest stepwise way to get away from constant treating when you're asking for simple things is first you ask, you reward, use a marker like a clicker or the word yes, then you reward. Then you start actually getting the food off your body. So in the beginning, you might have a treat pouch on or have food in your pocket. You're gonna start actually having it in a dish over there, right? Maybe on the countertop on the table. And you're gonna ask for the behavior, maybe 2 feet away from the table. When your dog does it, you're gonna mark, again with yes or clicker, and then you're gonna walk over, get the treat, and give it to them. So this puts space between the behavior and the treat. And one of the number one mistakes I see people make is that they always want to be ready. So what you'll do is you're like, okay, I'm going to ask my dog to stay. So I'm going to walk over to my treat bag, get treats out, hold them in my hand, then come ask my dog to do the behavior. And half the time, regular people will be showing the dog the treat. Sit, while you're holding it. So that teaches the dog that in order for it to matter, like why they should pay attention to you, they need to see that you go get the treat first. So it's about breaking our habits of not always getting the treat first. The treats are somewhere relatively available, but you're just gonna ask for the behavior and your dog has to roll the dice. Is it in their best interest to do it? And if they do, when you ask, yay, they earned the opportunity, that was an opportunity for them to earn a reward. They might have to wait 2 seconds while you go get the reward. Then they start to understand that even if the food's not on you, it is in their best interest to go ahead and do what you ask because there's a decent chance that you're going to give them something. And just to be fair as well, I would say once you have a well-trained dog, even the food rewards aren't always the 100% of the time, reward food. So what I mean is we start using environmental rewards. So for example, if I know I'm walking down the street and the mailbox that all the dogs like to pee on is coming up, it's about 10 feet away, I might take that as an opportunity to get my dog to walk in a nice heel position to that mailbox. So I'll, ask him to get in position. I'm, smiling at him. I'm letting him know he's doing the right thing. No food, there's not necessarily food in his face or, in my hand or anything. And then when we get to the mailbox, I'm like, oh, good boy, go sniff. And I use that as a reward for him walking nicely. Now, if he was dragging me over to the mailbox, I certainly would not let him pull me all the way over to the mailbox because then I'm rewarding the wrong thing. So I guess where I'm getting at is you don't want to go too fast with fading food rewards. And personally, I think it's perfectly fine for you to always, forever, give your dog some level of food rewards for behaviors that you ask them to do, especially hard behaviors. Like if you have a dog that is nervous or in public and they're kind of reactive or they're just really excitable, definitely give some food rewards. There's nothing wrong with that, right? You work for a paycheck, your dog works for a paycheck. But you can also do environmental rewards as your dog gets better and more skilled at different behaviors. So I hope that all made sense. Let me know if you have more questions.